B, I just had a great idea now that I'm thinking about it. Because I loved the idea so much, I have no idea how many coaches have taken me up on it, because I know I've said this several times, either on the pod or out to other coaches. Oh yeah, just interview coaches A through Z. You'll get a bunch of really good information from them. We should do it on the pod. We should do it on the pod and bring it back and invite coaches on and go, hey, coach, we're going A through Z with you. Record it as an episode and post it, because I'm telling you, we will get some really, really good, insightful stuff that will really help, coaches at large. It will be awesome. It really will be awesome. So I think we should do it. I hope you agree.
And we're on. This is the Let's Talk Cheer podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Larkins, where we talk cheer, we talk life, and we talk whatever comes to mind. 5, 6, 7, 8, let's get started.
Turn it up, you tuning into Let's Talk Cheer with JasonLarkins. We're talking cheer, we're talking like you know we're always talking. So listen up, you boy, about to go all in. 5, 6, 7, 8, we're on, let's begin.
This is episode number 98. Not sure if there's going to be a 99, but thank you for joining. We have a great episode for you guys today. Today we have on John Magilo from Spirit Athletics, Becky Herrera from Cheerforce, Portia Berger from the California All-Stars, Kyle Tolliver from NorCal Elite, and Julian Hirschberg from Max All-Stars. Now you're probably wondering, Jason, why do you have on so many different coaches in this episode? Well, in an episode back in December, I brought up this thing I did one summer where I interviewed all these coaches, basically using the alphabet as my guideline and my framework. And I mentioned, hey, we should do that again, record it and put it on the podcast. And basically this is that come to life. So today we are going through the alphabet. And for each letter of the alphabet, I have come up with a different question, and each coach has their own set of questions to answer. And I'm telling you, there is some great stuff in here, people. So get out your journals, get out your sticky notes, get out your pens, your papers, your napkins, and your crayons, because you are in for a treat. Now, because there will be an influx of people who have never listened to the show before or might not even know this show existed, let me welcome all of our new listeners. Welcome. As you just heard, we are 98 episodes deep, and I spend most episodes talking about the cheer industry from a coach's perspective, but we also have B Moore, who shares her thoughts and opinions from a cheer parent's perspective. And then every few weeks, we have on an awesome guest, typically an industry leader, who shares their story on how they became who they are today. So if it's your first time here, thank you for checking out the show. Again, you have 97 other episodes to catch up on, but so that you don't miss out on any more, be sure to subscribe. For everyone else, be sure to follow us on Instagram and on TikTok, two fairly new channels for us. We obviously post clips from the show there, but we also do a lot of other fun videos and giveaways there as well. So that's jasonc.larkins on TikTok and let's_talk_cheer_podcast on Instagram. Shout out to my mother, Sheila, Claire, Robin, Adriana, Chanel, Tamara, myself, my not so mysterious supporter, Heather Peterson of Flipside, Pablo, representing for all the cheer dads out there, our mate Michelle, Mike the lean, mean coaching machine, and our newest supporter, Heidi. Tell Aurora I said hi. Thank you for all of your donations. And if you want to financially support the show, you can donate for as little as 99 cents a month. And I'm telling you, it truly, truly helps out the show. It helps us take it to the next level. And every donation is used for your listening pleasure. Link in the show notes, link in the description. And if you're looking for the best free way to support the podcast, all you have to do is share the podcast, send it to a friend, send it to another coach, or post it on your social media. And by posting it on your social media, you are entered to win the giveaway. And what is the giveaway, you may ask? A free coaches training with yours truly. Twist Stars Cheers is coming up here shortly, and the next one could be with your program. All you have to do to enter is take a screenshot of an episode of the podcast, post that on your Instagram story, and tag our Instagram in the post. That's it. Share the post on your story, tag the Let's Talk Cheer podcast in the post, and you are entered to win. The winner will be announced in episode 100. The more shares, the more entries. Someone is going to win. Why not you? I'm the cheer director at American Cheer, AKSC.com, sharing with you my life, running a program, managing a staff, coaching the athletes, and working with the parents. And on the other side of the microphone are several coaches who will be blessing your ears today. But starting us off strong is John Magilo of Spirit Athletics. John, thanks for coming on the show, man. Excited that you are starting off A to Z. I split the letters up into like these 6 or 5 different groups, and I figured A through F would be right up your alley. So I'm ready to get started with this. Let's start off right now with the letter A. And this is actually a question I've been getting a lot from coaches. I get this question in my DMs or just coaches that text message me all the time. And so A is for absences. How are you dealing with absences, and how do you guys deal with absences in your gym?
I think that's just everybody's main issue, right? It's something that we all struggle with. So this year, what we've kind of adopted more is a blackout policy. So about between 3 to 2 weeks of a big event, whether it's camp, whether it's choreography, showcase, competition, whatever it may be, those are mandatory practices. There's absolutely no missing unless you have a doctor's note. If you don't, your parents are still going to pay the fee, but we're replacing your child for that event.
There we go. So what's your fee, if you don't mind me asking?
They have to pay the competition fee of whatever that registration fee is to have that perform.
Good stuff, man. Love that. Okay, so you black out 2 to 3 weeks before the big event. Can't miss. If you do miss, you have to pay the fee, and your athlete is getting replaced. Awesome. Okay, good stuff. Let's move on to B for belief. You're a program, and actually really cool about your program is because you had to get your athletes to actually believe that they can win big events. So you've done that several times now. You actually predicted that you guys were going to win the summit in several divisions, and you have, so congrats on that. But how did you get your athletes to believe that they could win big events?
It's really funny. I am a really big fan of Coach John Wooden, and he focuses on the pyramid of success, and he talks about industriousness and innovation and grit. And a lot of what we do is we're very aggressive as coaches. We're aggressive as a program. That's just the nature of the demographics of our area. Our kids are pretty rough. So what we are is we set specific standards, and we don't settle for anything less. It's a lot more harsh, and some people, disagree with it, but we tell them, no one is going to beat you because you have worked the hardest. No one is going to beat you because you're in control of your emotions. No one's going to beat you unless you beat yourself.
Yeah.
And then we take a lot of those learning experiences, because errors happen. Like, they always happen, no matter how prepared we think we are or how great we think we are. And we use that. Be like, hey, remember that one time? Did we like that? No? Okay, let's make sure that never happens again. Let's rep it out.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of pushing them to understand that their personal best is the standard. And we always watch our competition. I can't tell you how many times I've been on random Instagram pages checking out people's stunts, or I found like a mom of a program who posted her routine video and screen record that, and I put it up on the camera and say, like, this team is going to beat you. Like, look at this. They don't move. Or, whenever a big competition comes up, I get the lineup and we watch them on varsity TV, and I freeze everything. And, I look at the bases, I cover the flyers, and they're like, those bases don't move. They don't move at all. Look at you. You're like tap dancing under your stunts. Like, what are you doing? They freeze, they this. So by the time, my kids are at competition, they know these routines. They know what they have to do, and they understand those standards. So it's just always being prepared, always knowing what we're up against, always, utilizing our tools and resources. I'm glad that I have multiple coaches on our staff. Like, Patty, our owner, she's always the voice of reason. And I have my co-coaches like Candace and Bailey, who are always the more nice ones. They're like, okay, it wasn't terrible. I was like, it was horrible. It was awful. Like, what are you talking about? She stepped here. But like, everyone like really evens each other out. I take the turn of being like the Punisher enforcer, and then I get to be the nice guy. So we have a really amazing staff that just can kind of really get into every kid, because realistically, how you connect with your athletes and how we are able to build those rapport and relationships is how we create, the type of athletes that they're going to be.
I have a follow-up question for you, because I feel like lots of coaches are asking this as you said this. So you'll show your teams videos of teams they're going to compete against, right? And so I feel like a lot of coaches will go, if I show my team, a video of stingrays, they're going to go, how in the world can we ever beat them? So how do you manage like showing them a great team without having them doubt themselves that they can be at that level?
I find it far enough in advance. So what I'll do is I'm very blunt with them. I'm very realistic. I believe in teaching the kids the score sheet. I explain drivers. I explain the difficulty ranges. I explain, yes, they have, I'll use, for example, like last week. And I was like, look, this team has all squad fulls, but are they the best fulls? Like 15 people are throwing a full at one time, but like our 10 are perfect. And on the score sheet here, that doesn't matter. You can throw all squad 5 times in a row. That score's not going to beat you. But anytime you repeat a skill, you're taking away that difficulty chance, right? Also, I just tell them, I'm like, that's the reality. So we can either be afraid and go in and expecting, hey, let's try our best, or we're going in and take them out.
Yeah. There you go. Only 2 options. All right, Let's move on to C for conditioning. So what type of conditioning are we doing right now? How do we get our athletes to be super strong?
Super strong. We do a lot of actual mentalistic conditioning as well as physical conditioning. So every practice we have a set warm up. The staff as a group came to consensus. We're like, all right, tumbling's our weak area. Last year that was just across the board. We had really weak legs, or we had an influx of knee injuries. So we really focus on a lot of leg conditioning, a lot of arms, triceps, hand placements on certain drills. So we have the same warm up that happens, every morning, or not morning, every practice. Same type of conditioning warm up, and then the same tumbling type of warm up, and then the same stunting kind of warm up. Just a lot of repetition.
About how long are your practices?
Our practices are 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. And then how long are you spending conditioning?
Conditioning, I would say it's about a good 20 to 25, 30 minutes. It just depends on the issue, because we do a lot of consequential actions. So for example, if your stunt falls, you're going to condition. In between the routines, whatever errors there are, you're going to condition. It's a lot of erroneous learning. So for us, it's just kind of depends on where we are. At the beginning of the year, we focus a lot more on conditioning and just technique drivers. So our practices are mainly condition based versus the actual season. It's more mental based. One game that we play, I get so much joy out of it, but the other kids don't. Is that we have each stunt group, and I tell them, I'm like, hey, what stunt group do you want to challenge? And they'll pick their stunt group. I'm like, okay, if that stunt group hits, you owe me 50 push-ups. And then you have to do that. And if you fall, you have that conditioning. Or if they fall, they have that conditioning. Or if they both hit, nobody has conditioning.
Yeah.
So a lot of that type of thing. And the kids get really into it. They'll start poking the bases and the stunts. They'll start, cheering for them, or yelling at them to fall, or wherever it may be. And it actually really strengthens the mindset of how they're going to handle the competition, because I've been at events where I have opposing teams that are on the stage, cheering for us and wishing us the best. And I've had, sometimes where I've had those people saying fall, fall, fall.
Yeah.
And we just tell the kids, feed off of that. It's are you?
Yeah.
Only you're in control of your emotions, right?
True story. All right, here we go, John. I call him John. Everyone else calls him Jay. I know, my bad. Here we go, John.
So,
Let's move on to D. D is for dance. So give me the deets. How do we clean a good dance? How do we make a dance clean and sharp?
A dance clean and sharp. All right. It's probably one of the most aversive things I ever have to do. I hate cleaning dances. It's just, I challenged, you being on teams with me and you also coaching me at one point. I suck at dances. I was never good at them. I don't move that way. I was a gymnast. So what we do is I have all of us focus on like one particular part of the floor. And we just break down every single 8 count. We'll go 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll do the first 8 count and freeze. And we see the picture. And I'm like, no, and then each one of us, like Patty will be, above us, like standing on top of her perch. And then like Bailey will be here and Candace will be here. And Patty will be like, do you see her feet? And she snaps a lot. That's just why I do that. Like, we're very fast people. She's like, do you see her feet? Like, that's not the same. Like, why is her right foot in front over here? Why is this person over here? Is it space or is it quarter? Is it this or is it that? And eventually we just continue to like kind of chain that forward until we have the complete dance. And then of course, when you go full out, you get to that dance, everything you worked on for an hour and a half goes to the wayside and you have to start all over again.
Thrown out the window. Yep. Okay. So Patty's up top. She's upstairs on the perch. And there's, 3 other coaches down there on the floor, and you guys just split up the floor, and then each person's in charge of their section, right? You're in the middle looking at, the center dancers, and everyone else is off to the sides looking at the, the left or the right. And then you guys just go through 1 8 count at a time and, just break it down to make sure you guys are all in step in unison. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. It's just always a learning experience because we've, been blessed to have such amazing choreographers in our gym. Like, we've had Michael Chow that like works with a lot of our teams, and he does a lot more like dance, like movements, like where you're actually swooping your arm and you're like, oh, we're stopping here. We're going here.
Yeah.
And that's all you get to do for the rest of your life,
Yep.
Or, but, Ray Jasper comes in and he just, 5 8 counts in 2 seconds. So you're moving like backhead speeds, or then like we have, Patty does all of our lower levels and she just understands like that age demographic and she understands like what those kids can do. And it's just a cool learning experience. Like, we all just kind of always learn something different. We always try to get better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotcha. All right, here we go. Let's move on to E for execution. I always tell people that execution is king. So how do you, you guys are one of those programs that just flat out execute. So how do we get the kids? How do you emphasize execution to the kids? And how do you train execution? Like, how do you get your kids to look like robots?
How do we get our little death robots? Yes. Like I said, we're very aggressive just as a program as a whole. One thing that has been like a huge game changer for us is we've been just recording all of our skills on phones. We do the slow-mo, we like look at the pictures. We have like the best investment that we ever got probably was that the iTV. I'm trying to remember, like the Apple TV. And we always just put whatever's happening on top of the screen and just be like, watch it. And then we slow it down. I'm like, do you see that you're opening your heel stretch this way and this full up versus her who's opening it to the back versus her who's here? Look where she's grabbing her hand on the shoe. Look at where your hand is. Are you grabbing the middle of the shoe, the toe, the heel? Or do you have such bad flexibility that you can't even get your heel stretch?
Yeah.
And it's also, cameras don't lie. And one thing that we definitely use is we have our like private Facebook group for our parents. And when we say that we need some extra practices, we'll like post the video and be like, so this is why we're practicing on Saturday.
Yeah.
Do you see? Like, we don't want to spend, our thousands of dollars and our kids' efforts on them not doing well. So it's just a lot of, building rapport with the parents, having them understand that we're not going to try to do extra practices unless it's necessary. We focus on every single 8 count. Like, for me, my passion and love is stunting. I love to stunt. I love to do pyramids. So we do a lot of like the freeze game,
Yep.
And as they get stronger and stronger and stronger throughout the season, we do like 1 freeze game per practice as the warm up. And they know the specific spots that they have to freeze in their sequence. Like 5, 6, 7, 8, freeze on 1. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, go 3. And then you just kind of build through the entire stunt sequence. And if they fall, they condition, then they do it again. If they fall, they do it again. Like, and that sometimes takes like 20, 30 minutes, but you can actually get that frozen picture. And it's
Yeah.
so good when it happens.
Good stuff, man. All
Yeah.
right, here we go. Let's move on to our last one, which is F for full outs. Give me your philosophy on full outs. What do you think about, how do you manage them at practice? About how many do you throw at practice, or just your general philosophy for full outs at practice?
Our philosophy on full outs is that we believe in building the cardio, right? We want to always make sure that our kids are safe enough to always do the skills. So when we get our routines, like we start with like the building routines, we start with our tumbling routines. We realize, like what our strongest, we kind of lay out like our strengths as teams and like really dive into it. It's like, all right, like we have a team of new kids that are doing fulls this year. So we don't want to be running like 8 full outs, having them do fulls, and risk a knee injury. Or
Yep.
we're like, okay, like, they're a second year level 3 team. They're fine doing a bunch of tucks. Like their tuck section can go every time.
Yeah.
So when we finally get to that point, like we'll start out with like about like, okay, let's just try to survive our routines, like the first 2 of, of the season. We're like, just make it through. Just, it can fall, it can just we'll have oxygen masks ready for you at the end. Just try to make it through, right? And then as it goes through, we begin to build their cardio by running before their full outs. So we start with like about a 30-second run, and then they'll do like a routine with like one less skill. Like if they're level 5, we make them run to layouts. Like we're going to run for 2.5 minutes to like whatever cheer song they want or whatever regular song they want to get themselves hyped and pumped. Wait about 10 seconds, get to the opening, press play. We'll do about 3 of those come like about mid-season. And then by Summit, we're doing about 7 of those. 7, 8.
All right, John. So I know you do pyramid choreography, you do tumbling camps, and there's a plethora of things that you're able to help out other gyms with. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, how could they find you?
The best way is Facebook. I always answer my Facebook, Instagram messages. You can always reach me there. My name is Jay Magailo, and I'm the program director at Spirit Athletics.
There we go. So we'll put the link in the description. Reach out to Jay, aka John. He's John in my hearts, people. And get him out to your program. Make it happen. John, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you, Jason.
Owners, directors, coaches, we are in comp season now. So if you're looking for a second set of eyes as you're gearing up for your big events, I'd love to help out. You send me a video of your routine and I send you a video back of your routine with what I would fix and how I would fix it. Teams I've done this for have gone on to be world champions, NCAA All-Star champions, NCAA Collegiate champions, Summit champions, and D2 Summit champions. So if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, you can reach me via email at JasonLarkins, or you can reach me on Instagram at JasonLarkins, or on the Let's Talk Cheer podcast Instagram, Let's Talk Cheer podcast. And we are back. So now we have Becky joining us on the show to do letters G through K. Before we get started, Becky, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. But go ahead and tell the people who you are and the different hats that you wear in the industry.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This is super exciting. My first podcast. So yay, check that box. My name is Becky Herrera, and I founded Cheerforce in Southern California 22 years ago. Before that, I grew up dancing. So that was mainly my background, and fell into cheer because I love the Dallas Cowgirls. And I don't know if you're a fan of them or not, but yeah, was my inspiration for getting into cheer. Graduated from USC, thought I was going to open a dance studio, and it became a cheer gym. So here we are 22 years later. Super excited to have made it through COVID and all the challenges that have come, all these years later. I'm a mom of 3 boys that have all gone through the cheer program, and my youngest little guy is on our Mini One team that I'm coaching this year. So that's a super fun, special time together. Besides that, I'm involved with the USASF. I'm the chair of the Connection Leaders, which I know Jason is part of. And I was recently appointed to the board of directors with USASF as well. So it's really great to kind of give back to an industry that has given me a career and all that fun stuff. So yeah, That's
There we
me.
go. Love it. I did not know you went to USC. That's awesome. There we
I
go.
did.
Of all
Fight
the things
on.
you said, I go, she went to USC. Fight on.
Yeah, fight
I
on.
probably didn't have the grades to get there, nor any skill that would allow me just to kind of get in. But, I do enjoy them from afar. I do go, Ashley and I went to a game, that was years ago, but, fight on.
Oh,
Let's
the
go.
games are the best part. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
we have the Heisman winner, so you got to go next
very
year.
true.
We'll go
Oh my
together.
gosh. We went this is off topic. Sheila and I we were at a competition in Pomona, so a couple months ago when they was it the Pac-12 championship when they played Utah?
We don't need to
And
talk about that. Mm-mm. Yeah,
I'm
no.
telling you, we go down, we all had dinner with
It was a
staff.
bad day.
We have dinner with staff and we're watching the game, and then we go back to the hotel and we're like, hey, let's go to the hotel bar and finish watching the game. Sheila's a huge USC fan. And so we're there, and the most obnoxious Utah fans were in the bar, and they were just so obnoxious. Me and Sheila were just fuming, at them celebrating everything. And it wasn't a good
Yeah,
game. But
no.
that's life. It happens.
It absolutely, that is resilience. It gives them
Yeah,
motivation for next year.
there we go. But all right, here we go. So the
Okay.
people don't want to hear us talk about USC. They want to hear
Yeah.
us get to these letters. So let's get to letter G. So letter G, getting athletes in the gym. So Becky, you have a great thriving program. Talk to us about how you guys get athletes in the gym.
I love that you asked me this one because we started in a park, and to go from a park with like 14 kids to now my goal before the end of the season is to hit 500 athletes, and we're about
Mm-hmm.
25 away from that. And it's really truly been word of mouth. We don't do a ton of advertising and marketing. I'll throw out a Facebook ad here and there if we have like a camp that we're trying to do outreach for and bring some new bodies into the gym. But really, truly, the best marketing to get new athletes in has been word of mouth, because
Mm-hmm.
parents want to share what they believe in and that they trust in. And if another parent tells me that their child is thriving somewhere, I'm going to be more apt to bring my child there rather than just opening up, a random Facebook ad that might have thought I would want to go there. So
Mm-hmm.
that, in a quick nutshell, really, truly, it's word of mouth and just having a good culture in your program that's worth sharing.
There we go. And
That's my
I know
G.
we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but do you feel like your parents are just internally motivated to spread the word about the gym, or do you incentivize them at all to spread the word about the gym?
We've kind of done both. Right now, we don't really have any parent incentives like, hey, bring in 10 people and you'll get a free whatever. We have done that in the past, and it worked okay, but that kind of gave them, I don't know, the motivation to just talk to everybody, but not for the most sincere reasons. So I think that, if you have traditionally a group of moms chatting amongst themselves, they share what their babies are doing and what they're proud of. They like to brag about their kids and
Yep.
what they're involved in, and that they've made a good choice and found a great program for them. So that kind of tends to be where we get a lot of great emails inquiring about our program, saying, hey, my friend so-and-so loves your program, tell us more, we'd love to get involved.
Yep.
That gives us the most longest lasting customer, rather than some that just kind of, I don't know, happen across us by chance. But those that talk about us and learn from us from other families, those are like, they're in it to win it. They're super
Yep.
dedicated.
All right. So it sounds like focusing on like the culture in the gym. Like if you have a good product, a good culture, place that families are proud to bring their kids, they'll just naturally tell, their sphere of influence and, bring their friends, because everyone wants to share the good things that are happening in their lives. Does that sound about right?
Yes. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
There we go. All right. So guys, get a good culture. You'll get new kids in the gym. All right. So habits. H is for habits. What are some habits every coach should instill for personal success?
Okay, so I'm going to be the devil's advocate a little bit, and I want to know, how are they defining their success? Because to me, success might be different than my co-coach or my staff that I'm working with. Their success might be winning a competition and getting first place, but that's not really what our big goal is here and our big picture is in our program, I want to have happy kids. So for me, I'm going to be involved. I'm going to be a good listener. I'm going to be organized, and I just want to see them smile. So if I can do that, I'm finding success. It might be different for other coaches where they're all about the wins, and I don't necessarily go that route, so I can't speak to that. But for us personally, you have to stay relevant in our industry. And I tell this to when we do staff trainings all the time, we tell them a doctor doesn't become a doctor because they passed one test. They stay a doctor because they're continually learning. They're always renewing their licenses. They never stop learning. And that for me is what we have to put on to our coaches and our staff, gym owners alike, club owners, dance owners, everything. Can't ever stop learning. So that is going to be the number one thing for us. And that'll be another letter down the road, I know. But really, truly, it's first you have to define what success means to you. And once you can do that, then you're going to find the steps to find your path to that success. Again, for me, we just want happy kids that are going to turn out to be good humans by way of learning cheerleading. So that's going to be me staying organized, staying relevant in our industry, staying educated, and really just being out there and making sure that they're being good humans, So that's my personal habit.
There we go. I absolutely love it. I've known you long enough to know that you are doing things for the right reasons. You said this earlier about the USASF, about like not when you first joined the connection, but being a part of the connection leaders and then the board of advisors, about giving back to the industry, an industry that's given so much to you. And so you're one of the people in the industry who I feel from my heart doing things the right way for the right reasons. So that's my thank you, Becky. Of course.
Oh, well, no, thank you. It really honestly just comes back to when I was 8, my parents put me in dance. And shortly thereafter, we didn't come from a wealthy family at all. And they couldn't afford my dance lessons anymore. And my teacher didn't let me stop. She gave me a job being her assistant for, $5 an hour, but that's how I earned it. And had she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can't pay for it anymore, bye," my life would be completely different. I would have gone a different path. I don't even know where I would have ended. And knowing where I came from and why, that just
probably would have ended up at UCLA.
Maybe. You know what? That's a whole other podcast because that's where I wanted to start. And I changed my major. Whole other podcast. But I look back and I'm so grateful for her and just giving me that opportunity and showing my family grace that's where I come from. So I appreciate that.
There you go. Absolutely love it. All right, let's move on to I for incentives. Do you use incentive programs at practice to motivate your athletes? If so, what kind?
Yes. And are you ready to laugh? You guys,
I'm ready.
This is not fancy. Stickers. Our
there
kids
we go.
will do anything for a dang sticker. We've got sticker books, and I'm telling you, I have to order more off Amazon because we're almost out. If we pull out the stickers and we're like, okay, whichever stunt group gives us the best technique right now, you're earning the sticker. And all of a sudden they're super focused again. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Stickers. Occasionally we'll do accountability charts and we'll kind of track attendance or if they went above and beyond. I know one of our coaches likes to have the athletes do miles. They'll run a mile on an off weekend if we don't have practice or if we don't have a competition. And they have to submit, their screenshot of their time and whatever. Somewhat honor system, and we'll track that kind of stuff. And if they get a certain amount of stickers, they'll get a pizza party or something like that. But it's really just more teaching them self-motivation. But these dang kids, I'm not kidding, the minis, the tinies, all the way through the oldest kids in the gym, a sticker. That's it.
What's funny is we did this at CBU. When I was at CBU, Tammy, the head coach, she had Skittles because she owned an all-star gym. I think the first year she owned the All-Star Gym. So she was doing the All-Star Gym and CBU at the same time. And so she's like, she would have Skittles at the practice, which was her big thing at the All-Star Gym. And I think the Skittles are kind of corny. I'm like, she's always giving out Skittles to the kids. It's kind of corny. blah, blah. And so I never did it. I never gave out Skittles to the kids. Like I would do it occasionally, but she would always do it. And I remember one day I went to PCM because I would leave straight from CBU, go to PCM. And I remember just saying, all right, guys, if you have red thighs at the end of, marking through, like from slapping hard, you're going to get red Skittles. And everyone's thighs are just super red. And and they were slapping hard. And I was like, oh, I've cracked the code. And I remember apologizing, like, Tammy, I'm so sorry. I thought this was so corny, but these kids are going crazy for some Skittles right now. So, yeah. And we still have Skittles in the gym to this day. I need to do it more. I used to be heavy into it, but we still have Skittles in the gym. And I was giving them away last night. Like we did these like stunt group games, like your stunt group versus our stunt group. And, the winner got Skittles. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
so stickers, not corny. It makes perfect sense to me.
I'm going to go buy Skittles today. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is kind of more big picture again, but like one other big incentive program that we've had for years and years is every athlete that finishes their 4th consecutive year on an elite team gets a Letterman jacket. So we call it the 4-year
really
jacket, and we present it to them at their banquet. And at the banquet, we'll first recognize the 3-year athletes, and we'll say, okay, if you finish your 3rd consecutive year on an elite team, not prep, not novice, but elite, stand up, you're next. Next year is your year.
Mm-hmm.
And we've actually kept kids from moving on to like other sports or other, high school cheer maybe, because they wanted that dang jacket. And now it's not very cold here in California. We don't wear it very often. But it's something that they talk about, and they're excited for it. So that is one program that's more expensive than a sticker, but it's like a loyalty program in our gym.
Yeah, that's super cool. That is really cool. I actually had a parent ask me about a Letterman's jacket like a couple weeks ago. So maybe we'll do that too. See, this is why we do. I said this, and I'm going to say this in the opening, but I did this same thing a few years ago, and with all the coaches, but I would just call one coach from one program and just go, I did A to Z with them. And I was like, oh, this is super cool. And I remember learning so much, and so much I took from that. And so that's a great idea about like, hey, a Letterman's jacket every 4 years. I think it's a great idea. So fantastic. Also, side note, I had a parent get mad because we do the Skittles. We do the surveys. I haven't done a survey in a while, but we used to do the surveys. And one parent was like, I do not like that you use sugar as an incentive. And I was like, yeah, my bad. And we give them donuts when they hit 0. Yeah. Oh my gosh. No sugar for the kids. I was trying to guess what kid it was. I'm like, it's probably that kid. That kid's really healthy. Their mom's in the gym all the time. Okay.
I'd say granola bars. Oh, wait, you might hit the allergy kids. Nope.
Yeah.
Sticker. See? Stickers.
Sticker. I know. It's a safe bet. There you go. All right. Let's move on to Jay. So Jay for jumps. So what jump drills can you give us?
So it's funny that you gave me Jay, because coming from a dance background, my main focus was ballet, and we did a ton of jumps and leaps and all of that fun stuff. So something that I always look for when we're training jumps is just their landing. And obviously, the driver is feet together, but I'll tell you, once we had Victor Rosario in our gym doing a clinic. It was mostly for tumbling, but you couldn't hear him. He was so silent and controlled in the way he landed. And we use that example all the time to teach our kids, when you're jumping, it doesn't have to sound like a herd of elephants is landing on the floor. And the theory goes back to what I learned in dance, and it was landing toe ball heel, and just really not landing flat footed and jumping from a flat foot, or landing on your heel and, flex feet and all that stuff that drives me absolutely crazy. But it's everything leading through. Your toes should be the last to leave the ground and the first to hit the ground. Yep. So that is something that we really look at and focus on. We're not perfect at it, but it's just the ballerina inside of me. That's where it kind of comes out. But that helps them with the toe point and all that fun stuff. As far as like the conditioning for it, I feel like a lot of the strength is going to come from hip flexors, less on flexibility. I mean, that's important in a toe touch and in a hurdle and all that. But a lot of it is your power coming from your quads, your hamstrings, and your hip flexors. So I know a lot of gyms do this, and we've learned this from, I don't even remember who, but just sitting in like a pike and putting
Mm-hmm.
a water bottle there and lifting your leg up and over on both sides and doing both. That's going to really engage your hip flexors. We do that a lot. Or they'll be in a straddle and do both at the same time. Put your arms out, lift your legs
Yep.
up, engage your core, and that also is going to help with the rotation of your hips. So you're getting that hyperextended toe touch eventually. One drill, another one that we do is we'll have like a cheese mat folded into a block. And this is mostly to teach them to rotate their hips underneath, but to jump into a toe touch and land on their tailbone on the mat. So it's obviously not
Yep.
hurting them, but it's really teaching them to engage that core and rotate the hips so that you're getting the right position in the toe touch. So we do that one. And then, for flexibility, just really deep stretching with the hamstrings. So those that maybe already have the splits will put their leg up on an 8-inch mat and let gravity just really, really hold it. You need to hold a stretch for 30 to 60 seconds, but it tends to be better at the end of the day. I know like Debbie Love is really big into doing big, deep stretching at the end of a workout session when your muscles are warm and they can really take in all the oxygen they need to get into that deep flexibility training. So that would be kind of how we would wrap up a jumps class or a jumps training session, is just putting those split legs up on a deep mat and teaching them to kind of breathe out and let gravity, let them sink into that split.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. But yeah, those are kind of the main things we focus on. The best person to be asked is somebody at Stingrays. Man, they're like the best jumping team I've ever seen in my life. So we just want to try to be like them.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Easier said than done, right? For sure.
I want to sit in their class and be a fly on the wall and just like, how do you do what you do though?
Yeah.
So good.
For sure. Good stuff. All right. Let's move on to our last question. Becky, thank you so much for coming on. Let's do this last question. It's been a blast. You've been great. K is for knowledge. How do you share knowledge with your staff or other coaches?
Love this. And this is kind of where I feel like I'm at in my career, is just trying to take that leadership role of sharing the knowledge as much as we can, or telling people where to find the answers and the resources. And there's so much information out there. I have to go back and just say there was a period of time where you, as an owner, or even as a coach, especially, you've been around long enough and you feel like you know it all and there isn't anything else to learn. And that's the most dangerous place to be in your career. And when I finally was like, all right, let me get back to a coach's conference, I was so invigorated and inspired and like, okay, there's so much more to this. And I think is it the Dunning-Kruger effect? My husband's going to kill me if I say this wrong, but it's like the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know anything. And we're kind of at that point of, gosh, there's still so much to learn. And the best way to do it is just go to coaches conferences. I sat on a call yesterday, a planning meeting for the USASF national meeting in Nashville this coming summer, and it's being shared with USA Cheer. And we're so excited for all the knowledge and the training that's going to be happening. So for the last few years, I've brought my staff to it. Who's involved? Who's available? I will buy your ticket. I will get you out there. Let's go. So they sit and they come back so inspired. We do annual trainings with our entire Cheer Force program across all the locations. And, it's like daily check-ins. We have a band chat that we use just for our staff, and we'll share things that works, what's not working. And we're just in constant communication and constantly encouraging them to learn and get better. And knowledge is power. And again, like I said before, you have to stay relevant in this industry. You can't just sit back and think, okay, I've been in it for 5 or 10 years. I'm good. I know everything. The way kids are learning now is so different than when we first started. And you have to stay involved. Get on the calls. When there's a regional call, get on the call and listen. Vote. When the rules votes come out, put your and the surveys. Answer the surveys. Be involved, and then you'll kind of have a much better way of knowing what's going on, and you can stay into the game with everything good. So stay involved.
There we go.
Go to
Stay involved.
conferences.
Real
Talk to
quick.
people.
Do you
Listen
mind
to
giving us the
podcasts.
dates? Listen to podcasts. Yeah, definitely. Listen to the Let's Talk Cheer podcast. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Do
Number
you
one, I
have
should
the
have started with
dates
that.
for
Sorry. I
the
should have led with that.
right? That's the number one thing. Listen to the podcast. Best resource there is for everyone. Can you give us the dates for the USASF conference?
I believe it's July 20th to 22nd. I'm going to reach for my phone and make sure I'm telling you the right date. And it's in Nashville, Tennessee for the first time. It's super fun. I've never been there.
We had a blast. We
So
went to One Up last year, and it was One Up is I keep saying this, everyone knows One Up is a fantastic competition. It's honestly the best competition I've been to, like outside of like NCAA World Summit. It was absolutely incredible. So
was that at the Gaylord?
at the Gaylord, it's
I
incredible.
love that company. Their hotels are incredible.
Mm-hmm.
They're my favorite. Okay, so yeah, July 20th is a optional day. It's like a master's day. So they're going to be having
Mm-hmm.
master's classes, kind of like convention style for dance and cheer. So that's going to be like an added, if you want to go early, some specialty training for skills on that day. Friday and Saturday, so July 21st and 22nd, will be the actual national meeting with your traditional welcome session, classes, regional sessions, and all that great stuff.
There we go. Great stuff.
Yeah.
And then Becky, you said this, and it's the reason why I wanted to be a part of the connection leaders is I heard a definition of gossip, which I absolutely love. And it said gossip is complaining to people about your problems who can't do anything about them. Right. And so, parents sitting in the lobby complaining about why their daughter didn't make a level 3 team, right? That would be considered gossip because the other parent can't do anything about your daughter making the level 3 team. If the only person who can do something about that is, right, you, the coach, you, the owner. And so that parent should have a conversation with you as the owner, you as the coach or whatever, to say, hey, what can my daughter do to make a level 3 team? Or, coaches bickering back and forth about things. I don't understand why we're leaving on a Thursday night. We should be leaving on a Friday. And, well, you don't make that decision. Becky makes that decision, right? So that's considered gossip. And so I love that definition because, we as coaches, complain, coaches are just as bad as parents. Coaches always complain about how much coaches always complain about, parents and, but coaches are just as bad when it comes to the industry, right? And so coaches, if you want to see something change in the industry, then join, the group, like be a connection leader, or like you said, write the surveys, join the calls, and actually have a real impact on decisions being made about the industry, opposed to just complaining about it to your coworkers, right? Who can't really do anything besides agree or disagree with you, right? So
Agreed. Yeah.
Anyway, Becky,
Absolutely.
if the people want to follow anything you want to plug right now, you, or how they can follow the gym on social media, or they can follow, USASF, like how can people stay connected with everything you're connected with?
Oh gosh. So our gym is Cheerforce. Oh, we have Instagram. We have, the Cheerforce All Stars on Instagram. And that's our main program. And then our individual location is at cheerforce.sv, Simi Valley. My Facebook is just my name, Becky Herrera. It's usually mostly competition stuff for my kids that I post about, or I try to share some leadership memes that I think are super cool. For USASF, I mean, the main thing, if you're a member, you'll want to be a part of their Facebook pages. And I know it can be a little less exciting on social media when there's not dramatic posts and bickering to read about, but all of their Facebook pages, they have specific ones for club owners and they have some for coaches as well. And it's just really great conversations of, really, truly, I need help me, and other gym owners helping each other. So if you're a USASF member, you'll just have to go to those Facebook pages and request a membership and they'll accept you. But what you said about gossip is so important because it's just lack of information. And if you really, truly want to know really what's going on, go to the source. And I know it's less exciting and less fun because drama makes you feel better about yourself if it's about somebody else. That's why I watch The Bachelor, because it makes me feel great about my marriage and my love life and all that. So
Right. Oh, a random question. Is there we have a lot of parents that listen to the podcast. Is there like a USASF like parent Facebook page by chance? I'm not sure if there is,
That's a
but
good question. There is a band group. I'm going to pull it up right
okay.
now. So if they're on band, there is, I just saw this the other day, and I'm not in charge of it, but I have seen it and I follow it and I share it on they have some really cool stuff on there sometimes. Let me pull up. The amount of bands that I'm in it's a little scary.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you.
It is called the All-Star Cheer and Dance Parent Connect. I don't know if you can, that's what it looks like. So if anybody here is listening that is on band, you can follow that. And there's some really fun interaction with some of the regional directors with parents on there.
There we go. Becky,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining the show. You have been great and you're welcome back anytime.
Aw, you're so sweet. Thank you. I can't wait to see you. Are you going to be at Spirit Sports?
Of course.
I'll see you there.
See you there. All right,
Yes.
guys, we're going to go
nice to
ahead
have you.
and you've been awesome. I love you, Becky. Guys, we're going to get to a break and come back. And I'm not sure who we have coming on next. Well, we got someone coming on next when we get back from the break. So hang tight. And we are back. And joining us now is Kyle Tolliver from NorCal Elite. So I'm not going to go ahead. I'm going to let you go ahead and do your own intro. But Kyle, tell the people who you are and the different hats you wear in the industry.
Thank you, Jason. I'm really excited to be on here today. You finally got me on it, right? I'm Kyle, obviously.
Finally,
yeah. I'm Kyle. I am the All-Star Director of NorCal Elite, now one of the co-owners of the San Ramon location. Aside from,
let's go.
Finally. Aside from what I do there, I also own XFX All-Star. So we are a apparel and design company, and we just do a bunch of stuff for everybody in the industry. So both of those things. Other than that, choreographer, mostly for our own teams now. I used to do a handful of teams over here on the West Coast. Haven't been able to do it that much, though, because we have a bunch of things that we have to deal with at NorCal, right? So really excited to be on here.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, and this is just a free plug right here, Kyle, tons of our graphics that we use at American, Kyle actually makes those graphics. So you do a handful of our t-shirts every year. You do a ton of our graphics. So, he does a great job. So, or well, let me speak to you. You do a great job. I love your stuff.
Thank you. I
that you've given
appreciate
us over the years. So
I really care about what I do.
Man. And well, 1 year you gave us, like, we had just ordered from you, and like a month later, a couple weeks later, you had just sent us a free graphic, and you're like, here, I gave you this. I just made this American thing for it. It was like a shield, but it kind of looked like Captain America.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
And you're like, do whatever you want with it. And I was like, cool. And so if you go on our SoundCloud, like, we still use it as our SoundCloud background. And actually, yeah, it's our SoundCloud background. And this is real. You change, if you go on social media, the American Cheer logo that we use on social media, you just made for us. Like, you updated our logo and gave it like more depth. Like, it has like, just depth to it. That's the only way I can really describe it.
I mean, that's what I love to do.
But you just made that for us. Yeah, you're just like, here you go. This is your, and that's the logo that we use. Like, I don't use the other old, and I didn't get like approval for that. Like, I'm like, yo, this is the new American Cheer logo, and this is what we're using from now on. So thanks for that, Kyle.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, dude. So I got to ask you this, because this is not one of your letters,
pleasure.
and I did not prepare you for this. But you text me one day. I'm guessing I had Charisma on. I think I might have had Charisma on the pod. Yeah. And you would like text me after, and you're like, hey, I'm ready to tell you what the red shoelace means. And I was like, oh, apparently Kyle listens to the podcast. But I need to ask, okay, so what's up with the red shoelace with NorCal?
Okay, so the red shoelaces actually do mean a lot to our program. So we had our founders of NorCal. We have Rachel Job, we call her Mama. And then we had Donna Mills. We called her Donna Mama. And unfortunately, she passed away many years back now. And we, in her remembrance, we decided that we were going to put these laces in our shoes. And essentially what they mean is that when you look down, you're told to live for today, right? You only have today. That's the only guarantee you have. You only have the next couple minutes in some cases. So when our athletes are looking down and everybody gets set the same way, we always look down at our shoes. It's a reminder to tell them to live for today because tomorrow's not guaranteed. So those are what the laces mean
There
to
we
us.
go.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it, man. Good stuff. Yeah, I was like, I always see the red laces. I have no idea what that means, but they got red laces. So
Yeah.
there you go. Now the world knows. You heard it here. You heard it here first. Probably not first, but you heard it here. So, all right, Kyle, let's go ahead and hop into these letters. And arguably, you've got the best set of letters in the alphabet, elemental P.
I'm excited.
So let's go ahead and get cracking. L stands for levels. So what's your perspective? How do you guys put together levels? How do you determine what level an athlete makes or goes on?
Well, I know for us, levels are really the foundation of our program. So finding the right level for each athlete is the most important thing, at least I feel, for a competitive season, or at least a highly competitive season. You build your routine upon your level, right? So you have some athletes that might have those really great level 3 skills, some that maybe have a little bit of work to do. Finding a level that balances that out is really, really important for the longevity of your team that season. Over the years, we have learned through hardship not to put athletes on levels that they're really just not ready for. And you always have those athletes that might have just got their tuck last week. It's tryouts this week and they want to throw their tuck, and then it's not quite there. They're landing it, but it's not quite there. For us, we found that it's best to put them in a position where they can succeed rather than where they're pushed too far. Because nobody wants an athlete, or not. I shouldn't say nobody wants an athlete. An athlete doesn't want to be in a place where they are forced to do a skill that they just got, and they go into that skill. You can see it on their face. They're like, "Oh no, I don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to land today? Maybe it won't." And it's just the worry and that fear is something we try to push away from, right? It also sets the team back pretty substantially if you're playing catch up all summer, because you have a couple athletes that are just not quite there. And we've always repped our routines out that we want everything to be done 100% of the time. So even if we're just doing our tumbling liners, and we have athletes that are throwing their tucks, throwing their layouts, and they're touching down, they're having some pretty excessive steps out of it, we usually will make them go back and do it again, which I'm sure a bunch of coaches do. So it's really hard on them if they don't have the skills or they just don't have a proficiency. And then you couple that with this new scoring system we're on that's so just steadfast on perfection and demanding execution that is 100% perfect from start to finish. It just isn't something we want to put our athletes in, right? So levels for us, most of the time we base all of our levels off of their tumbling. We teach their stunting capabilities. So when they come and they do tryouts, we look at their tumbling skills, their jumping skills, any specialty skills they may have, and then we put them in a level, and then that level eventually turns into the team. But the easiest way I can say it is we usually will level each athlete down by one level unless they are absolutely proficient in their tumbling, jumping, and in some cases their stunting capabilities of that level. It's also not unheard of for us to put a team together and then decide maybe a month down the line, we might have made a mistake here, and then have that conversation with our families and pull that team down to a level where they can be the most successful.
Yep. No, I got you. It reminds me of, I did an open team years ago, right? And I remember we were trying to put toe backs in the routine.
The infamous toe back.
Trying to figure out, yeah, right? Toe backs back in the day. So we're trying to figure out, who's going to go. Are there any more kids on this team who can do a toe back? And I remember the choreographer. His name was Gianni. I think it was Gianni. He used to coach Panthers a long, long time ago.
I think that was before my time.
And I remember him. Yeah, this is forever ago, right? And I remember him saying, and not just a toe back. You need to be able to do it with high heels on the concrete, and
not the high heels.
There's a girl in the back named Kristen. Yeah, he says stilettos on in the concrete, right?
Oh my God.
And he goes, Kristen's in the back, and Kristen's tuck was kind of hit and miss, right? And everyone's like, Kristen, raise her hand. Kristen, come on, you can do it. And she's like, well, not in stilettos. And I'm like, well, that's true. She should not do one in stilettos. So you ain't in this, Kristen. So yeah, so your kid can't do it in high heels on the concrete. I'm not sure they got the skill.
That's right, the truth right there. That's what, but I will say though, we do for us, we also try to provide an opportunity for all of our kids. It's not like we're if somebody isn't proficient, we're turning them away. We have a pretty large
Mm-hmm.
prep program, and as I'm sure you know, prep
Mm-hmm.
is crazy these days. Like I'm watching some of these prep teams go out and put on
Yeah.
performances, and I'm like, I am glad that you are not an elite team because that gave us a
Mm-hmm.
run for our money, especially
Yeah.
those like high caliber level one preps, like the 1.1s. They
Yeah.
know what they're doing. But we also like
For
we try
sure.
to navigate athletes that direction if they're not ready for elite level one, you know? We'll put them in that prep, and we do offer full season and mid-season prep teams. So if there's any teams, any programs, any coaches of you out there that are finding that it might be a little bit hard to build these elite teams, especially with the new scoring system, go for prep. Like it's really, really strong, and
Yeah.
the kids love it. Like they live for it. It's just as competitive, if not more
Mm-hmm.
competitive in some cases, than the elite team. So
Yeah.
I would definitely go that
Yeah.
route if you could.
These prep divisions deep.
Yes, deep, deep.
Here we go. So let's move on to the letter M. M is for mental toughness. So how do you guys train, to get mentally tough athletes?
That's probably the hardest thing to do. I mean, start to finish, season beginning to season end, it's a constant struggle. I will
Mm-hmm.
say though, from day one, we really try to like demand perfection from our athletes, which kind of instills that mental toughness because they have to focus on the task at hand, right? So we'll set them in the back. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it could be something as simple as doing just motions, right? We're doing tees and we're cleaning. We're going to do that until it looks the way it needs to. And for some athletes, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
they're not feeling it. They're like, why are we doing this? Like I came to do a stunt. I came to tumble. I'm not here to try to learn a tee.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of giving it giving it to them then is what I have found and our coaches have found works the best. Is being like, you have to get through this. Like we have to have perfected tees. These motions are everywhere in the routine. It just is it's one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that's the most overlooked because you start it from the beginning. It's not get the routine, start going full out, and then be like full out, full out, full out until everybody hits it, right? If you wait until that point,
Mm-hmm.
it's too late. You're way past
Yeah.
that foundational level of getting them where they need to be. So at least for us, you start it from day one. And I would really, really encourage any coach to do that. You start it from day one, from practice one, even as soon as the moment they walk in and they get on the floor and you put them in windows, because we all start in those windows, right? Make sure they're standing on the spot on the floor where
Yep.
they need to. Be like, I'm sorry, Susie, you're on the quarter mat. We're supposed to be on the half mat. And yeah, they get frustrated, but
Mm-hmm.
when they learn it then, it's only going to help when they get in the routine because the last thing you want is athletes that don't understand why you stopped the music, right? We all get to that point where
Yeah.
like, okay, you guys, we got to stop this. You got to do it again. And they get those like faces
Mm-hmm.
or like, oh, if you don't teach it to them before, then they don't understand what the purpose of that is. They don't get
Yeah.
why am I
For
doing
sure.
this? And then you send it to competition. And the hardest thing is that mental game at comp because you can rep a routine
Mm-hmm.
100, 200 times before you go to competition. And we've all been there. They go to competition and they hit the mat and then they truly hit the mat. And we're like, ooh, that was not what it needed to be, right? But
Yeah.
if you work on that mental game before, then they get there and they know it. They get it. They go from the beginning to the end. Every part of the routine is a focus, and that's truly what instills that mental toughness.
Yeah, for sure. I read this in a book one time and it said, anytime you ask a professional, athlete, how much of your game is mental versus how much is physical, and they're like, oh yeah, this sport is way more mental than
Oh,
physical. This game is
absolutely.
all mental. And he said, well, how much time do you spend training the mental? Like, if your game is 90% mental and 10% is physical, why are you spending 90% of your time on the physical and only 10% on the mental, right? So we need to up our mental game if our sport really is all mental. And like it is, we see those kids go out there and like you said, they hit the mat and then they really hit the mat. And
Yeah.
it's not because they weren't physically trained. It's because they didn't have that mental toughness and mental training. So like you said, it starts from day one.
No,
All right,
absolutely.
here we go. All right, Kyle. So let's move on to the letter N. N is for negative athletes. So how do you guys deal with negative athletes at the gym?
I mean, that's a kind of a given for any program. You're going to get a handful, and I would say that we're fortunate that we haven't had any like truly negative athletes where like their whole vibe is just all bad. It's usually just like the day to day, like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel good today, or I'm in a bad mood, and kind of just navigating through those like times with them. For me, I like to really engage with the athletes a little bit deeper when they're having those types of moments. And usually it can be remedied in like the easiest thing, like, oh, you don't have to tumble today. Like, you don't need to do it. It's all good. And they
Mm-hmm.
usually will turn it around real quick. There are, like, I would say 9 out of 10 times that's all you need to do. But there are those few cases where you
Mm-hmm.
have like that, just that girl or that boy that is just like, I'm not here, like I'm not in it. Or they might be getting frustrated that they think
Mm-hmm.
they're working harder than others and they're just the star athlete. And sometimes those are the ones that we need to kind of have those like deeper conversations with. Like, what is truly bothering you? Why do you feel
Mm-hmm.
this way? And again, more times than not, they come straight back to you and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm happy. I'm
Yeah.
I'm like excited to be here. So it's hard to really gauge. But at the end of the day, having a conversation with them, letting them know, like, your vibe and the way that you're engaging with your teammates, it just isn't helping. It's not making everybody feel happy. It's not
Mm-hmm.
making everybody feel confident. It's hurting the team because we all know like the strongest bonded team is usually the one that's the most successful because win, lose, or draw, they're in it
Mm-hmm.
together, right? They're not just going for the win. They're
Yeah.
not going for that individual satisfaction. They're doing it with their teammates. So when you identify that issue with an athlete that may be negative, that they're a part of a bigger picture, they're a part of that team, it usually helps them see through that. And then, there always is those cases where there's athletes that maybe don't want to change. They don't think that they're doing that. That's when you have to go in those like deeper, like, oh, let's go talk to your parents, which usually I would say 10 out of 10 times they stop being negative the moment you bring the parents into it. Like, nope, actually, I'm really
Mm-hmm.
good now. I'm
Yep.
excited. I'm really happy. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say to do. It helps. No matter what, start with a conversation because half the time they don't even know that they're behaving that
There we
way.
go. Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying you just flat out need to have a real conversation with the kid. Like you can't just complain to the other coaches in the gym, go home and complain
Yeah.
about this person, but you actually need to have a real conversation with Susie and go, hey, Susie, like I've noticed that you aren't giving this much effort or that you kind of came in like this. And if that doesn't work, now we bring in mom and
Yeah.
dad to really have an intervention.
Yep.
Does that sound
Absolutely.
about right?
Absolutely. You got it.
There we go. All right. So that was N, which means we're on the letter O.
Yes, we are.
So O is for obstacles. So Kyle, share with us, maybe one, some of your biggest obstacles that you faced as a coach and how you've had to overcome them.
Okay. Well, I'd say the biggest overarching obstacle for myself as a coach is adaptability because these
Mm-hmm.
the everything's changing so much, right? Especially in our industry, that if you are able to be adaptable, it's very hard. It's like you make your season difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking at athletes that are just wanting to do anything and everything under the sun, I mean, I don't know if you're feeling that with your kids, but like our kids want to be doing
Mm-hmm.
volleyball and basketball, and then they're going
Mm-hmm.
to go and do the stunt team and the high school team, and it's so hard to adapt to their schedules and then have it affect practice. So I know for myself, at least the last couple of years, the hardest thing for me has been kind of putting myself aside and how I would hope to coach the team and coaching the kids that are in front of me, right? Because everybody's
Mm-hmm.
different. So
Yep.
taking that individual aspect and coaching that has been my biggest obstacle. It's really hard. It's just always been hard for me to do. But
Yeah.
it is the most rewarding in the long run because you get to really get a sense of who this kid is, right? You know that I might be able to
Yeah.
encourage Sally one way, and that if I encourage Susie the way I just encouraged Sally, Susie's going to get really upset, right? And so that was really hard
Mm-hmm.
at first for me to understand. I'm like, oh no, I'm telling you the same thing that I just told her. Why is it not working? And it actually got me in
Mm-hmm.
a place where I was really frustrated because I was like, am I just being a bad coach? Like, well, how am I supposed to fix this? But
Yeah.
I would say adaptability is huge. On top of being adaptable, I mean, it's really, really hard for me to see a team not come
Mm-hmm.
together. Like that's really hard. And then try my best
Yeah.
and not be able to
Mm-hmm.
get through to them. So on top of being adaptable is just being efficient. That's a huge obstacle because we always want to do our
Mm-hmm.
best. And if I'm not able to feel like I'm making a change, I can get really frustrated. And I would say that's a huge obstacle that is
Yeah.
constant. It's not something that I've had to overcome in the past. It's something that's constantly having to be overcome. Being adaptable, being efficient. It's hard.
Yeah, for sure. And the crazy thing about like the adaptability is that everything is always changing. Like the kids
Yeah.
change as they get older. We change as we get older, and we all have different experiences, and like, different families are in and out, different coaches are in and out, the industry changes. And so as all those things are changing, we can't just do the same thing that we've always done. Like, the everything is always changing, so we always have to remain adaptable. And it's so hard because we're
Absolutely.
all creatures of habit, and we just want to do what we did
You're telling
yesterday. Like, I
me.
just want to do it the way I did last year. Yeah, for sure. I heard that. All right, here we go. Last but not least, P. And this letter is perfect for y'all because y'all are some of the best performers in the
Oh,
game.
I
So P is for
appreciate that.
performance. Yeah, for sure. Dude, everyone loves them a NorCal Elite routine. It doesn't matter who you're watching. Like, if you see NorCal in your division, and y'all got like 87 teams, it's like you're going to compete against NorCal in one of these divisions for sure. So, it's like, oh, you better step your game up because NorCal's going to be there. And y'all always bring the performance. So how do we get our kids to perform, and be top tier performers and take that routine to the next level?
Well, I appreciate all of the compliments. Absolutely. I mean, we really do pride ourselves in performance. It's something that we try to start from the get-go. But you know how I love a good performance. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Like, I love when a team is on stage and I
Mm-hmm.
just see them getting it. Like, they're not just doing a skill, they are performing that skill and they're having a good old time doing it, right? So for me, performance is one of my favorite skills to teach because I get the most joy out of seeing teams perform a routine. But it's something that we do
Mm-hmm.
start with on day one. And it's not, we don't wait for the routines and then we're like, okay, now we're going to start performing. We got our music. Let's get it, right? It starts from the beginning. Like, when we come in at practice, we do our warm up. We'll do like little things. Like, we want you to make a face. Like, you're going to stop, you're going to look up, and you're going to make this great face that looks like you just got the puppy that you
Mm-hmm.
always wanted on Christmas. Like, it's all those like little things.
Yep.
And then as they start to really understand that that is where those moments are, because that's the beginning. The foundation is, where do you perform? What are the moments you need to perform? And it starts with those little things. Then we start to kind of expand on that. Because to me, performance is very much a skill set, just like tumbling, right? You don't come into
Mm-hmm.
cheerleading and you're like, I got a double full now. Great. No, that doesn't happen. Just like you don't come in and you have the
Mm-hmm.
best performance. It is in that way.
Yeah.
So we start at like the foundational level and then build it up from there. So it starts in those little moments in between, say, T-jacks, or when they're going through their tumbling, like making a face
Mm-hmm.
in their approach. But it ends with
Yep.
their own encompassment of what performance means. We teach them what faces we like judges like to
Mm-hmm.
see. I'm sure we all do that. You got the wow face, like eyes wide, mouth open. Wow, we're having so much
Mm-hmm.
fun. This is great. And then you kind of start to see, after they've had to do that for so long, that they start to make their own twist on it. And that's when the genuine performance comes out. And
Mm-hmm.
usually for us, it happens right around December. It takes a long time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people overlook how hard performance is to teach. Like, it's hard. And then and
Yeah.
then on top of that, it's like a huge aspect of your score, right? Because nobody wants to go and have a
Mm-hmm.
perfect score and then you get to that showmanship and they're like 1.5. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
that, right?
Yeah.
It's hard, but it is a skill set to teach, and we try to instill in our athletes every single day. Not even just
There you
practices, it's every single day.
every single day. And it sounds like several of these answers, like it's just part of the culture of being at NorCal. Like, it starts on day one. So it's just, when it's in the air, when you walk in here, like, it's just part of what you do. And if you're not doing it on day one, well, good luck. You have to catch up,
Yeah.
right? Like, it takes a long time to develop these things. So all the coaches out there listening, a lot of these things isn't just like one specific, like, drill that we do, but it's part of our culture that we start from the beginning, first day of practice.
Yeah.
So if you haven't started it, start it right now. All right, Kyle. Dude, Kyle, you have been great. You've been an awesome guest. You're welcome back to do a full interview so people can really get to know you anytime. But until then, tell the people how they can, if they want to follow, NorCal's journey, or get in contact with you about graphics, t-shirts, all that good stuff. Let everyone know how they can, reach out to you.
So you can always catch us for all of the things God and Goddess at NorCali All Stars. We're at NorCali or at NCE All Stars. Got a couple little handles there. For myself and for XFX, whenever you need some like good gear, you need some anything graphic design needs, that's at XFX All Star. or xfxallstar.com. You can always catch me. I'm always there to help. Passion over profit always, and passion first for anything that you get
There we
from
go.
this guy right here.
Love. Hey, are you still making music?
I'm not making music anymore. That game is too hard. Way too hard.
Come on, man.
I
You did Fantasy's track back in the day.
that was
You did one Fantasy track that I absolutely loved, and they did some like dance thing to it. So you had some voiceover, and the girls did this dance move to it. I loved it, and I always knew Kyle Tolliver did the music, but I didn't know who you were. And later I connected it. I was like, that's Kyle Tolliver. He did our music that one year. So yeah, good
that
stuff,
game is
man.
way too hard. I like bow down to these music producers because I can't even begin
Yeah,
to think how they do that. It's crazy. It's crazy.
good stuff, man. All right, and hey, Kyle, best of luck the rest of your season, and I'll see you guys in,
USA?
I guess, the
Is
summit.
it
I guess next time we'll see each
not
other.
not USA?
No, we ain't. Not USA. That's not USA.
American not going to
Hey,
USA.
Matt Godo, I love you.
Yeah,
but we'll be
it's
there.
all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
But we'll see you at Summit then.
There you go. See you at Summit. And we are back, and joining us now, still in NorCal, but a little bit down the street, we have Portia. Portia, thanks for coming on the show.
Of course.
Dude, it's the best. We've been homies for a minute, so glad that you got to come on. One of these days, I gotta get Brittany on too. So Brittany, if you're listening, you're coming on the show next time we do one of these. Shout out to Brittany, you know, the homie. But anyway, Portia, tell the people who you are, the different hats that you wear in the industry.
So I'm Portia. I work at California All Stars Bay Area. I have been there. This is my 10th or 11th year there. I coach our medium junior 3, JFab, our medium junior 4, Covert, and new for me this year, our small co-ed 5 strikers.
There we go. Small co-ed 5 strikers. That used to be Live 5, right?
Yes, it did.
Dude, that is my personal opinion, the coolest name in the world. Live 5, because I coach Restricted 5 back at PCM, and so we had to go against Live 5 all the time. And I just thought that was such a cool name. Like Live, Livermore, and they're a level 5 team. Like I just thought it was such a cool name. So bring back Live 5. No offense to anyone on Strikers, but Live 5 was just such a cool name. So anyway. All right, Portia, let's hop into this. Portia, you have letters Q through U. So let's
You vanished.
let's hop straight into these. So Q is for quitting. So how do you deal with athletes, you know, that quit in the middle of the season and, you know, just recovering from that whole, you know, the detriment that leaves the team in?
So we're really fortunate to not have this happen too often. If we do get quitters, it tends to be a little bit earlier in the season during summer training. But if it does happen due to injury or due to any other reason, once summer training is done, we we tend to just try and fill that spot as best we can. Most of the time, we try and pull from within program because we are really, really blessed to have a good amount of athletes that enjoy crossing over to help out, whether it be short term, long term, for the remainder of the season. However, occasionally, if we have issues like this year, we have a lot more teams from our location going to NCA. So it is a little bit harder to fill from within because of the level to level crossover rule, but no level up or down. So we do occasionally, if we have athletes that didn't return from the previous season, we might reach out to them. We try not to do that too often unless they've already reached out to us and we might not have had a position for them available when they reached out. So we do sometimes approach it from that standpoint, but typically we're pretty blessed to be able to pull from within program. But I mean, last season, JFab and Covert had, we were still coming out of COVID, so we had more crossovers than we like. We tend to start our season in our location with 0 crossovers, and only allow crossovers due to quitting, injury, sickness, emergency. So, but we do have a lot of kids that enjoy crossing over, so we pull from within.
There we go.
So,
How many teams are in Livermore right now?
this season, I believe we're at 10.
Okay, yeah.
We vary from 10 to 12.
And
One year, I
that's
believe we had
those are
13.
all-star elite teams?
Yes. And then we have
There we go,
our,
yeah.
so 11 if we include our mid-season team. So,
Mm-hmm. There we go. Dude, that's a full house, man. Like we
yeah.
have 12 teams, 6 elite, 6 prep. Well, 6 elite, 6 prep, 2 mid-seasons, and then fundamentals going on right now. And that is just that's a lot, right? I mean, it's a lot with the
Yeah.
just 6 elite teams, right? And to have, 10, 12 elite teams, because we all know
It's
how
a
much
lot.
like goes into like making sure that these teams are ready for this competition. Yeah, it's crazy. Dude, more power to y'all. All right, here we go. So let's move on to the letter R. R stands for resources. So, Portia, what resources are you using nowadays to keep you sharp and ahead of the game?
So, resources, I tend to be more of just a video watcher. I
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost usually go back to what's worked for me in the past. So I'll watch old videos. In the past couple of years, I've been big on taking the teams that I've coached in years past and going and watching those divisions
Mm-hmm.
from, even as far back as 2013, 2014, and trying to kind of reinvent the wheel. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
taking skills we did, but finding um, like taking maybe level 5 skills that might be a little bit more they were advanced then but aren't as advanced now, and making them
Mm-hmm.
finding a way to make them level 4 or even level 3.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm big on videos and reels, and recently with Instagram and TikTok, reels pop up and you're like, oh, I forgot about that,
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to just find ideas that way. As far as the tumbling side goes, I kind of just follow a lot of, I don't want to say random, but people that I've found on Instagram or people from other, gyms or programs. And I try and kind of like make notes for myself in my phone and on my iPad of drills and skills that maybe I might have used 10 years ago that I totally forgot about,
Mm-hmm.
or that I know I have filed away somewhere in my brain, but I've
Mm-hmm.
forgotten to bring it out. Um, and I kind of go through that. I do use a lot of the Debbie Love stuff from over the years because her stuff was very good for tumbling. But I try and just keep like a log of drills because, I mean, tumbling's kind of where it's at right now as far as
Mm-hmm.
execution goes. So nothing too crazy. Every once in a while, I look at like acrobatics and
Mm-hmm.
maybe Cirque du Soleil stuff just to get ideas here and there. But
Yeah.
for the
No, it's
most part, I
crazy
mean,
when you go back and think about like things that were really advanced in level 5 or level 6 years ago that aren't so
yep,
advanced right now. Like, so for international level 4 at Summit, you can compete 1.5 ups to the top. And
yeah,
like all the international rules are a little bit different if you've never competed in them before, but you can compete 1.5 ups to the top in level 4. And so we were getting ready with our J4 last year to get ready for Summit. And we're like, hey guys, we're going to do 1.5 ups to the top. And so we start training them and we're doing it and they're hitting them. And I'm like, guys, you guys don't understand. Smoed did these. Excuse me. Samoa did these in like 2012, 2013, and the world
yeah,
lost their mind. Like they lost their mind when they did these. And I'm showing them a video of like these old Samoa routines. And I'm telling you,
totally.
everyone thought this was just crazy. And now we're doing them as a level 4 team, right?
Well,
So
like
yeah, it's just crazy when
quarter
you look
switch
at these
ups,
things. Yeah, for sure.
quarter
Quarter switch
switch
ups is
ups. I
another good one.
remember doing those at Worlds and
Mm-hmm.
being like a top 5 contender with them, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, they're not very hard at all. They're pretty dang
Yeah.
easy. So
So yeah, that's some good stuff. Like look back and you're like, okay, yeah, we could turn that into a level 4. We can turn that level 3. We can turn that level 2 now and make it, more good stuff.
Totally.
All right, here we go. Let's move on to S. S is for score sheets. So, with all of your experience in this cheer world, what insights can you give us on the score sheet?
Well, the score sheet this year has definitely been a challenge. I think as just an industry, I think for everyone that I've talked to is either a fan or not a fan at all. And then I kind of fall both ways, I guess you could say. It's been a challenging, I think, for myself and a couple others like Brittany, because we take a lot of pride in always setting our routines up to be the most advanced as far as stunts and pyramids go. And on the new score sheet, that's not necessarily rewarded because it's capped. So not with pyramids, but with stunts, since it's capped, I mean, they tell you exactly what to do. If you either do it or you don't. If you do it, you get the 4 or 5, or you get the score, and then you're pretty level with everyone from there. So that's been a big shift for us because it's like the risk and the reward aren't necessarily there anymore. So you're required allotted skills, but now you need to do them technically perfect. So that was hard to shift gears for me because I wanted to do the most. And then at our first few events, you do the most, but your technique suffers. So then one side of the score sheet's great, but everybody's, difficulty side of the score sheet is pretty equal. So then I had to shift gears in my head to, more, not that we weren't emphasizing the execution, because we were, but even greater emphasis on, bases being chest to chest, and where the elbows are under the stunt, and where the flyer's weight distribution is. And so I think for us, especially with our junior teams, because that's where me and Brittany have been predominantly, they're younger. So for them, they always just took great pride in the skill sets they were doing and how hard they were. And now we've have to teach them to shift gears to, you can do the hardest things, but we have to do it the most correct. So I think for us, that's been, especially for me, that's been the hardest challenge. And, I take pride in kids being smart cheerleaders. So no matter if you're 8, 9, 10, or 15, 16, 17, you need to know the score sheet, and you need to know what's rewarded and what's not. And I think we have taught our kids for so many years that we want to do the most and we want to be the best. And now when we're either dialing it back and taking skill sets out, or finding that certain things weren't scoring what we wanted, so we're switching them and changing them and rearranging them. I think my biggest challenge is my kids. It's a blessing and a curse. My kids are smart. So when I take them out, they're like, but wait, like, we're good enough to do that. And it's like, you're good enough to do it, but you're not being rewarded for it. So why are we going to bend over backwards to do it, make you more tired, instead of doing exactly what the score sheet is asking, and then taking time to put the creativity in, or the better execution. So for us, it's been, especially in the Bay, it's been a big shift, coach-wise and athlete-wise. But on the flip side of that, when it comes to like the tumbling aspect, I think it's huge because it's forcing a stronger foundation. They're having to do specific things, and they're having to do it technically perfect if you want to be rewarded. So we're instead of being separated by the difficulty now, everyone's being separated by the execution, even more so than ever. And I think that in the long run is going to create less injury, and it's going to create better foundation. So when kids do move up in level, they are not just kind of doing the skill. They're actually doing the skill and doing it well. And so, but I do think the score sheet requires a lot. And so if the team isn't set up I don't want to say correctly, but if you have more than a handful that can't do the skills technically perfect, those that can do the skills technically perfect are being forced to carry the weight a little bit
Yeah.
and have to do more than maybe they've had to do in past. So I think it kind of comes down to everyone being able, not everyone being able to do everything, but a majority of the team being able to do everything with great execution
Yeah.
so that there aren't those athletes that are having to be recycled over and over again.
No, I feel you.
So,
There we go. Now I talk about score sheet literally every day on the podcast, so I'm not going to hop into it today. I'm gonna let you stick to that right now. So we'll move on to T
okay.
for time and time. How is time split up at practice for you?
So we technically, our practice allotted window is 2 hours. We are in a very unique situation at the Bay. We do not have two full size floors. We only have we have two floors per se, but we share the two center mats. So instead of it
Okay,
being two 9-panel floors, it's one 9-panel floor and one 7-panel floor, and they're connected.
gotcha.
So it's just one large floor.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the 9 panels in the center are blue and the outside panels are black. So when we do get to a point in the season when we're running our full outs like comp style,
Mm-hmm.
we use the true center and teams just rotate through it.
Yep.
However, time management is huge for us because we are constantly sharing 2 panels. So with our earlier sessions in the day, because we run it, like 5:30, 7:30, 7:30, 9:30, the 5:30 session 2 days a week has 3 teams in it. And
Yeah.
so it's a little bit, it's controlled chaos, but it's chaos nonetheless. And it is, you have to be aware of everyone's schedule that they want to stick to on that particular day. So we kind of have to be a little bit more willing to adapt because it's not always as easy as I'm going to run my practice the way I want to run my practice on my time because
Yeah.
I might have that, but Brittany might have the same idea. And then our kids end up tumbling on top of each other. And now we're in a situation where we can't do what we want to do. So
Yeah.
I like to spend about the first hour warming up, cleaning, drilling, and then having like a 15-minute window to like, if I need a little bit extra time on something, having that window to drill that. And then having about 45 minutes to do full outs, clean sections in between, give or take, because we're sharing. So, but a lot of times I end up going over my 2 hours. So,
Don't we all?
my time management. So recently I've been having the kids come early so that we can get done at 7:30 because I know I'm probably going to be longer.
Yeah.
It's also just dependent on the level. Like my level 3 takes less time. My level 4, because I feel like there's 800,000 sections I have to clean because there's so many things we do, I take longer with them.
Yeah.
And, that's also, we have a lot of kids on that team this year that have had to, due to injury or due to sickness or high school conflicts, like had to switch, change, rearrange people on that team a lot. So we're just getting to the point where we can consistently run the same practices all the
Yeah.
time. So, but I like to give myself a 45-minute window at least at the end to do my run throughs. But, some days it's longer, some days it's less.
Yeah.
Just kind of depending on what my emphasis was that day.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. There we go. All right, here we go. Portia, we're going to get to this last question. The letter is U, and the U stands for underdog. So, how do you, let me read this exactly. How do you attack seasons or competitions when you know you're the underdog?
So every season is pretty unique in the sense that I think every coach likes to assume that their team has been set up to be the strongest or the most capable. But we all do know we have those rebuilding years, whether it be that all your kids aged up, all your kids skilled out, and now you're bringing in, the kids that were not that level previously, or you get a lot of new kids from other outside programs or whatever the case may be. And I don't think we ever really know. I always like to not assume, but like, I guess, assume that my team is set up successful or that my team is going to be one of the strongest. But then, by midsummer, in summer, you start seeing the clips of everybody else in your division and you're like, oh, well,
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah.
So, using like this year as, I think, a an example. So a bulk of my medium junior three, not a bulk, but a lot of them skilled out this year. So a lot of them went on to our medium junior four. So I ended up with an influx of new kids, and many of which I'd never even coached in lessons or class. So me and Cameron weren't really sure what we were kind of getting into. We knew they were going to be great, but they're very young for a junior team. And with that being said, it wasn't that they're incapable, because they're actually probably a little bit more capable, because I think the younger you are, you tend to be a little bit more of a pleaser. So I think for us this year, we knew it would be different to start and that we were going to have to work really, really hard. So I vouched to myself that I was going to overly communicate from the beginning of the season, and overly communicate everything, overly communicate on every platform of social media we had to the parents, like these are the expectations skill wise, because parents want their kid in every section, and with the new score sheet, you don't get rewarded. You don't put 30 kids in a section, you put the best 22. And so that was my approach this year. And at first it was hard. We went to American Grand, and this is our first year back to American Grand in probably 7 years. But we went, and I'd be lying if I said I expected us to be top three. We had an undefeated season with JFAB last year, and we ended up in fourth. And after day one, and then I was like, okay, we're going to work hard. We're going to get up there. We're going to do better day two. We did do better, but still not enough to come out of fourth. And that was, I think, an eye-opening experience, not only for myself and for Cameron, but for the family as well. Because I think so many people make our junior three, and you make the team and you assume it's going to be like it was the previous season. And there's just, oh, well, it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same. We're going to end up being successful because we're on this team. And we often forget the work that goes in. And so, we had to get back to the drawing board. And I overly communicated again, like, here, this is where we are. This is how our scores stacked up. These are the areas we have to improve. If we don't see improvement, you guys aren't going to feel as successful as you want to. And, I think that was our turning point this year, was, no, we're going to do it. We are going to do it. And if that means more classes, more lessons to get our tumbling skills up to par, because that was kind of where we were a little bit behind in the technique side. And I'm also a big advocate for assigning cheer homework. Because obviously, depending on the age group, right? The younger kids are going to do it. The older kids are going to look at you sideways and be like, no, I'm not doing it. But I have a lot of younger kids. So assigning, like, writing out, like, this is your cheer homework for Tuesdays and Thursdays on our off days. And, giving incentives. Like, if you complete this, not only is it going to benefit your team, but we're going to do a raffle. And if your name gets put in every time you do it, and then you win candy or, incentives, because I think through COVID, we lost a lot of kids' ability to self-motivate, and that has to be relearned. And I think that incentives at a young age helps encourage the work ethic. And then once they do it enough, it becomes a habit. And then they're finding the self motivation to be able to be like, oh, wait, I do like working hard. I do enjoy seeing the benefits on the mat. I do enjoy being part of that team that is successful. And, then we were really blessed. We went to Spirit Sports, and it was the first time we had competed against a lot of the people we competed against at American Grand, and they were able to come out on top. And that was a big win for them mentally. And I think confidence wise, that was huge for them because I have so many young kids, so many 14 and unders that are now like, oh, wait, we can do that. We did that, And so I think that this year for me especially was like, oh, wait, like these kids are capable of anything. You just have to lay out the standards, overly communicate, and work hard and teach them that nothing is too much hard work. And I think that is kind of been the motivating factor right now. And now I can confidently say, like, we're going into Dallas feeling a lot better about our skill level, and I think I can see it in the kids. I can see it in the parents. And it's not something that is just a hope anymore.
Yeah.
It's like knowing without a doubt that like we are in control of what we do and we worked as hard as we can, and now we're going to see where we fall. So
have
I think that
division splits come out yet for Dallas?
Yes, they have. They have.
You don't need to say anything. How's your division looking? You feeling all right?
I'm feeling good. I think the kids are feeling good. I'm feeling great about level 3. Level 4, there was no division split, so it's just 14 teams, and of course the division split happens at 16. So I was like, well, cool, now we have one of the biggest divisions because it's at 14. But, it's in just telling my kids exactly how I feel. Like, it's better to compete against everyone now than to get to Summit and the first time competing against some of the big dogs be at Summit. So I'd rather see how we match up now and have, those few months to prepare for Summit than just hope. So
I remember one year we division splits came out. This one we're at PCM, and we were large senior 3, and we have 32. This is back when large senior was 32. So we have like 32 kids on the team, and every big gym is split into that 30 plus. It's like Cali and Woodlands Elite and I can't remember, but it's like everyone. I just remember everyone being in that division split, and then like the 29 and below were like all these teams I'd never heard of, and I'm like, man, how can we lose a kid?
No, well, this year that's medium junior 4. So there's 14 teams. 7 of them are cheer athletics and California All-Stars. 3 California All-Star teams, 4 cheer athletics. The other 7 are like Woodlands Elite, still big gyms, but like 7 of the teams are California All-Stars and cheer athletics. I was like, cool.
So, for sure.
I mean, here we go. Let's see.
Here we go. Let's make it happen. Yeah, for sure.
So I am feeling good. Dallas, brings out the best and the worst of us as coaches. So it'll be fun. I'm just hoping for good weather. Well, decent weather.
Yeah, just allow us to fly into the city, please, right?
Yeah. Last year was not it. Sure. So
not it at all. That's fun. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Portia, you have been great. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, experience, and wisdom with all of our listeners. Real quick, before we let you go and get to this break, if the people want to follow you or follow the gym on social media, how can they do that?
You can hop on the website, californiaallstars.com, or on Instagram, I believe it's just the California All-Stars. And then from there, obviously it'll link you to like the separate locations if you want. So
there we go. Yep. Awesome stuff. Portia, thanks for coming on again. You're welcome back any time.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to get to a break. And then when we come back, we got our final set of letters What we got coming up? V through Z with Julian from Max All Stars. And we are back, and I want to welcome to the show Julian, who's going to be closing us out with letters V through Z. So first, Julian, welcome to the show, and go ahead and tell the people who you are and the different hats you wear in the industry.
Hi, yeah, my name is Julian Hirschberg. I'm the tumbling director at Max All Star Cheer. I've been in the industry since I was about 8 years old. My family owns the gym I work at, so I started coaching when I was 15, and so this will be my 18th season. I also am an ambassador for Tumble Track, and I do a lot of trainings for them as well. And so I do it all. I love tumbling. I've worked at Nash Camp. Well, I will be working at Nash Camp, and I did Woodward when it was Woodward.
There we go. Good stuff, man. And you guys, I remember meeting you. Like, really feel like the first time we ever like talked face to face. Oh, we talked a couple times like at competitions, but we ran into each other at Grand last year, and Small Coed. Congrats with Small Coed winning Worlds. Oh, and then was it the level 5 that won Summit or the level 4?
It was our level 4 that won Summit.
Yeah, like
and
medium,
then
medium Coed.
Medium. Yeah, I think it was medium international 4 or something like that.
Okay, yeah, yeah, they were good.
They were
really good.
They're a great team.
Yeah, for sure. I was watching. We were in the stands, maybe waiting for awards or maybe waiting for our warm up time. But I remember like watching them, and it was like, oh, that team was really, really good. And it was cool to see that you guys end up winning that. So, but yeah. Anyway, so let's hop into these letters and get it cracking. So let's start with V. So V is for value. So what values do you have as a coach? What do you hold important to you as a coach?
For me, value comes down to like number one, progression. Progression is everything for me. I don't coach what we refer to a lot as designer teams. I usually coach up and coming teams that are kind of working towards getting to the top. Like I coach our younger worlds team, and I work with a lot of our younger athletes that are working towards getting to the top. So progression over everything. And second comes team cohesion. Like a team that doesn't get along is so unfun to be on. It's so unfun to coach. It's just so unfun.
Yeah, for sure. So, I feel you, man.
So dude, for me, those are my top 2 values.
There we go. And that team cohesion, like you said, it's not fun for the kids to be on, and it's not fun to coach when kids are bickering and just doing all that stuff, right? Like just that whole like chaos.
For me, I've had teams that I've coached that have been great. Yeah, like I've had teams that are great, but they're not fun to coach because they don't get along. And they've had great seasons, but it wasn't great for me because it wasn't fun.
No, yeah, for sure. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to W, and W is for winning routines. So what actually, for you, creates a winning routine?
I think it comes back down to that team cohesion. I think for us, winning is really new for us as a program, if I'm being 100% honest, on the big scale. Like we've won locally a lot, but winning on the big stages has been really new for us, and we're just super excited and humbled by every experience that we've had. I mean, but for us, winning is new. So we had to kind of change our perspective for a long time about what is winning. What is a win for me as a coach? A win is a kid that gets a little bit better each day. A kid is a team, or a win is a team that's just getting a little bit crisper, like just those 0.1% getting better. Because you have to redefine what that means for, like, I mean, we've been in the industry for 25 years, and we just won Worlds for the first time ever.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see that from my parents. I mean, I hate, like, it's so interesting, but like watching my dad cry on that world stage after he won was probably one of the best. I understand like what being a parent kind of felt like, because I was like just watching my dad cry, and I was like, this is what it's all about.
Yeah, that's really cool. And go ahead, and we have a lot of new coaches that listen to the podcast, and well, new coaches, and then a lot of just like smaller programs that, you know, don't go to Worlds, maybe don't even have teams that go to Summit, and they're really struggling with that component of like actually winning big competitions, right? Like a very small percent of our audience probably actually has won worlds before, right? Or even won summit, and I'm guessing a large percent have maybe never even gone to summit. So talk to me one more time, like kind of reiterate that or expand upon winning on that small scale, not necessarily winning like, and in first place, from Utah, but just those individual wins, like what
Oh,
coaches at that level can look forward to as far as winning is concerned, or winning at that level.
so yeah, for me, like I I coach mostly tumbling, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
anytime I watch a kid break through to a new skill, that is a huge win. I always call it like in my
Mm-hmm.
mind I have what I like to jokingly call my emotional trophy case. And
Mm-hmm.
it's literally just like the biggest wins of my career. Like and a lot of those are not gold medals, they're not first place teams on a floor. A lot of those are little Susie got through her mental block. She just her relationship with her parents has changed, her relationship with the sport has changed, her relationship with everything has changed because she got to have a little bit more self-confidence today.
Mm-hmm.
And
Good
like with
stuff.
teams like I for some reason my bird flips just kept dropping below prep and I don't so I literally put a pool noodle in the middle of them the other day and I was like, you guys are not allowed to go below this noodle. And like just by fixing that one part of my pyramid, that was like the biggest win of my week last week.
Mm-hmm. Good. You know how many times I watched that on Instagram? Like I came up on my feed and it was like, put this noodle on. And I watched that video so many times to be like, he's might have cracked the code. And I'm trying to think of like how I can work that into, our stuff. Like, is there anything I need to do where I can incorporate that noodle? It's such a really, really good idea. All right, here we go. So let's move on to X. And X, we have a little get creative here. X for cross tumbling. So as the tumbling director of a very good tumbling program, I figured I would toss this one your way. So tell me about tumbling and cross tumbling and how you set up your classes, and give us some structure, some feedback, and some fun facts and some tips.
Oh, this is a hot take. I don't think people should ever cross tumble.
All right.
I think
What do
it's
you mean by that?
unrealistic.
Oh, well, okay. What's your definition of cross tumble?
Like corner to corner using the entire floor.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you do the big X down the center,
Mm-hmm.
I find it. So here's my biggest issue with it as a coach. It's two sides. I
Mm-hmm.
like lines. Lines to
Yep.
me are I've always said lines are the truth. It's the one thing promised to you on every spring floor, every college floor, every high school floor. There will be spaces, there will
Yep.
be lines. So you want to use those lines because they're there. Why wouldn't you use
Yep.
those to square off your tumbling? I teach a lot of
Mm-hmm.
spin skills. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I don't like people landing towards a corner when they're learning spin skills because I might not have caught it, but they might have landed 7/8 or even like a full and a quarter. And it
Mm-hmm.
just those little tiny extra angles could be the damage to the ankles and knees that you don't want.
Yeah.
The the other thing I don't love about the idea of like the big floor cross tumbling is you're burning up so much of your active like space. So
Mm-hmm.
we usually tumble long ways is what we call it. Like we have like you have the short run and the long run. And the
Yep.
long run's just the full nine mat like the 9 panel mat. And then the short run's just top to bottom, the 7.
Mm-hmm.
But like we usually run it just straight up. Like we kind of grid out our floor and we let people go in long because I mean we have another floor that's attached to our main tumbling floor. So if you
Mm-hmm.
have to go longer than a floor, you can.
Yep.
But I find that like one out of it like maximum 5 kids in a routine are actually using a true corner to corner pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I
You know.
don't train it because I just don't find it like plausible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. You know, what's so funny is when we were younger, I remember when I first started cheering, we did cross tumbling, right? And we would just
Oh
line
yeah,
up,
all day.
15 of us in this corner, the other 15 in that corner, and we'd go one at a time, corner to corner, right? And I eventually started working camps, and I worked for Action Spirit with Ray Jasper.
Love
And
him.
yeah, I love him too. Ray, it's time for you to come on the show, man. And I remember going to Maryland Twisters. They were one of the clients, right? We got
So
Maryland
good.
Twisters, and I remember we had to watch F5 practice. And it was the first time I'd ever seen he had the kids line up what you would call the long run, right? They're all lining up, and he would go, series, right? and the kids all just ripple series. And then he goes tucks, right? And they go through this whole warm up progression. And he's twist, right? And you see like 20 double full start going. It was pretty impressive. But I'd only seen corners up. People do what we would call cross tumbling, and yeah. And I'm not sure if anyone actually still does crossed. I tried to do it a few years ago, and I was like, "Hey guys, you're gonna line up in this corner, and you're gonna line up in this corner, and you guys are gonna go." The kids were like totally lost on the concept. I'm like, "Guys, it's not that hard. You're gonna go, then you're gonna go, then you're gonna go."
Corey Ricketts runs an incredible cross tumbling circuit. I just can't get my kids to do it, but he does incredible stuff out of the corners.
There you go. Good stuff, man. All right,
Corey Ricketts incredible at everything he does.
Yeah, shout out to Corey. Hey, Corey, you need to come on the show too, man. Let's go, Corey. All right.
He's incredible.
And shout out to that new baby you got, Corey. All right. Y is for younger coaches. Like I said earlier, we've got a lot of younger coaches who listen to the show. A lot of coaches just trying to get their footing in the industry and, just try to make it happen. So what advice do you have for all the younger coaches out there listening right now?
So I'm going to be super vulnerable right now. I have struggled my whole life with mental health. Like, it's something I've worked on my whole life. I've had ADHD my whole life. And that's my biggest advice to younger coaches is keep an eye on your mental health. This is the best job in the world. I truly believe that. But at the same time, it has a very heavy toll on your emotions. Mm-hmm. And so you have to keep an eye on your mental health. Like, if you're teaching a kid privately and it's just not clicking, have that conversation with that parent. Be like, hey, you know what? This isn't working for me. This isn't working for her. Like, I think we could find her a better fit. But for me, it's just not. Like, I feel like I'm putting stress on her because she's putting stress on me. And that's something we need to work on. And maybe we should just take a break for a while. I think learning to have open and honest conversations with parents, athletes, and your coworkers is so important.
There we go. I love it. So real quick, let me follow up. What do you feel about the job where you said this is like an emotionally like taxing job, draining job? So what is it about the job specifically do you feel like just drains you?
So I mean, it's a nonstop job, right? Like, most of us don't ever turn this job off. I think about cheer probably like, I'm going to be real, probably like 85 to 90% of my day.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, even a blah gray day where I just didn't see a lot of progression, one of those is fine. And you're going to have like good days and bad days. Everybody does. But like, if you're not always trying to just make sure that you're in it, because it's competitive, that's why we like it. But certain aspects of not being competitive hurt. Like, if, say, you weren't your best today, you feel that just like an athlete feels that.
Yeah.
You feel your bad days, and you have to carry that with you until you have a good day.
I feel
so it's a lot of just checking in on yourself, making sure, like, one of the things I've always tried to do is make sure you like sustain relationships outside the industry just to stay grounded in reality. But it is really tricky.
No, I feel
all my friends are cheerleaders too.
Yeah, I heard that, man. I heard that. You mentioned this about thinking about the sport, 80-90% of your day, right? And I was talking to a coach not too long ago who was just struggling with the other coaches in their gym about just being too hard on the kids, right? And just lashing out at the kids and just lashing out the kids, basically. Like, I don't want this like in our culture, right? And I remember saying, yeah, like part of that is that coaches sometimes don't feel like the athletes are at their dedication level. I was like, because as coaches, we're thinking about it, like you said, all day long. We're at the gym, obviously we go to the gym, but we're thinking about how we're going to run practice before we get to the gym. And then as soon as practice is over, we're thinking about what we're going to do next practice or what we could have done better. And, you're talking about it on the weekends, right? And it's consuming your whole life. Meanwhile, the kids have, they go to school and then they have their social life and then they come to the gym. And I feel like I can personally speak, I think about cheer way more as a coach than I did as an athlete. And I was a really, really dedicated athlete. And I think about cheer far more as a coach than I did as an athlete. And so when you feel like the kids aren't putting in as much dedication as you like, it angers you, right? Because you're like, why aren't you like, come on, like, I can't want this more. And so
why aren't you into it?
Yeah. And so my advice to coaches is you can't want it more than the athletes, right? Like, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. And so when you're trying to want it more than so this is my advice. I didn't even know I was going to give this advice until you said something. But if you want it more, it needs to be important and very important. And you need to inspire the kids to want it. But if you want it 10x more than the athletes, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to stress yourself out because you're always going to view them as like, why don't they put in the same level as me, right? And none of us want to be the hardest workers in the room. So here we go. Julian, you have been great. Let's go ahead and wrap up with the letter Z. And Z is for zillion.
Okay.
So what is something you say a zillion times at practice?
I'm going to be honest. It depends who you ask.
Yeah.
I would say you ask my team, and their first initial instinct would be burpee tucks.
Burpee tucks.
I love burpee tucks. I like them because they're just a quick and easy. Like, so if I'm being real, my favorite zillion statement is earn your water break.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to clean a section. I want to make it look right, but there will never be a water break without some kind of like mini conditioning right before you go get it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, I honestly think we have so much dead time in our sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of times we're just like milling about. Like, you're like, okay, well, we cleaned your first stunt. Go grab a quick water break. Be back in like, we'll call you back. No, you're going to do 10 burpee tucks. You get 2 minutes of water maximum, and then you're back. Let's play.
Yeah.
But I also, the last thing I always say to my teams before they hit the floor is have fun and hit.
Yeah.
And I really try to emphasize, like, I actually play a lot of games at practice. I love to have fun. I think that's one of those things we forget is that kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I coach high-end athletes, like super high-end athletes. But they're still kids.
Yeah.
I'm still a kid. I want to play a game more than I want to work out. If it is even harder than actually working out.
Yeah.
It's just more fun to have a goal at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So have fun and hit is probably my big zillion.
There we go. Have fun and hit. Emphasis on the hit, guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have a fun practice, you should probably hit.
Yeah, for sure. Have fun and hit. I love that. That's good stuff. We used to say when I cheered at SFA, which I always want to say it to the kids, I always kind of feel like it's slightly not inappropriate. I just, I don't know. But we used to say this at SFA before we went.
Aged.
Well, it's aged, right? Yeah, and we used to say, "Don't suck," and I always want to tell that to the kids, but I'm like, no, I don't need another parent email about me saying he told the kids not to suck. And so, but yeah, I like that. Have fun and go hit. Yeah, good stuff, man. All right, man. Dude, Julian, you've been great. How can people, if people want to follow you or the gym on social media or reach out to you about doing camps, I know you do tumbling clinics or anything, where can the people reach you? How can they get in contact with you, or where can they follow you and your journey?
So yeah, totally. My Instagram is Max MACS_Julian. Our gym is Max_cheer. So MACS_cheer. You can also find me on Facebook and all the other forms of TikTok and whatnot. It's all the same, Max_Julian. On Facebook, it's Julian Hirschberg. If you can spell that your first try, congratulations. It's a tricky one. Yeah. But yeah, I'm always around. I especially with coaches, I get a lot of DMs, like a ton of like, hey, how would you fix this? And I try to get back to people as fast as I can because I actually like the challenge. Like, send it to me. I like the challenge.
There we go. Absolutely love it. Julian, you also recommended a great book to me. What book was it? Everyone's going to think it's some coaching book. It was not a coaching book. What was the name of that book?
Project Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary. Man, that was such a good book. I couldn't believe how good it was. I was like, it's the best book I've ever read in my life. So if you're looking for just a good...
It's so good. I've read it like 3 times.
Yeah, man. If you're looking for a good science fiction book, Project Hail Mary is great. I'm going to link it.
Yeah.
I'm going to link it below. That's how good it was. So, Dude.
I'm a big sci-fi nerd. If you guys ever need sci-fi, I'm here.
Yeah, that was a great book. So anyway, Julian, thanks for wrapping up the show. We appreciate you, man, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much, dude. That was so fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. Hey, Let's Talk Cheer podcast listeners. Although this episode has come to an end, there are a few other cheer podcasts out there that you can add to your weekly routine. If you're a gym owner or gym director and want to dive more into the business side of things, then check out the Connecting People and Profits podcast with host Dan Cotton. If you're a former cheerleader and want to hear the success stories from other former cheer athletes after their cheering days are done, then you'd love the Life After Cheer podcast with host Danielle Donovan. And if you're a cheer parent and need another cheer parent to relate to and want to hear things from a cheer mom's perspective, then the Cheer Mom podcast is for you. Check one of them out, check them all out, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching the Let's Talk Cheer podcast. Definitely subscribe so you never miss out on anything from the show.